Survivor's ready. Go!
Travis spoken.
Boston Rob and Amber are gonna do it.
This is a business trip, as I like to say.
You, Brad Culpepper.
I'm tired of you and the fucking chicken.
You can call me the puppet master. They can be my little puppets.
It's not like you're making a deal with the devil here.
You get to milk your own milk, I guess.
Who the hell voted for me? Chicken.
We got enough rocks here, too. We could build a pretty decent shelter just using rocks.
I'm supposed to talk Lime with you. You understand that better?
Direct from Hobart, it's time for the only Survivor podcast in Australia dedicated to Survivor, bringing you all the latest interviews, episodes, and opinions from the greatest reality show on the planet. It's Survivor Oz, and here's your host, Ben Waterworth.
Hello everybody, and welcome once again to Survivor Oz, Australia's only Survivor TV and radio show. Well, it's not a TV show, but I just made up that it is anyway, but whatever. We are here once again for a Survivor Worlds Apart episode recap, episode 8 to be precise, and joining us to recap this week's episode, it's a big pleasure to welcome back for the first time on this show since a recap of Blood vs. Water from Guatemala, the one and only Brian Corridan. Brian, welcome back to Survivor Oz.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
Great to have you back, and I don't know about that introduction there. I completely stuffed that. Apparently we're a TV show now.
Hey, you can be anything you want to be.
Hey.
It's 2015.
Well, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
That's very true, actually. Maybe I'll just claim that we are a TV show, and then we can win Emmys and shit. I don't know, but
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's not stopped people before.
Yeah.
Look at Orange is the New Black.
Yes. Hey, Netflix, that's a thing now. So look, it's a TV show, whatever it is. But we're here to talk about Survivor, what we do best on this show. And you're always one of our favourites here, Brian. You've always got a lot to say. And I want to start off by asking you your thoughts so far on the 30th season, Worlds Apart. What's your thoughts so far on this season?
God, I have so many. It's a good season. It's like a good, solid season so far. I like it. I just wish Jeff hadn't been so crazy about it before, because I thought we were going to get like blindside after blindside after blindside. I thought this was going to be like post-Micronesia for the entire game. And now they're calling like Haley a blindside. Like, I'm sorry. You're in the minority alliance. Like, you could hope for a flip, but that's not a blind. I don't know. I feel like the hashtags have gone out of hand. It's not always a blind side. So
it's interesting with Jeff's opinions of seasons, because I think he's been a bit cautious talking up seasons since Caramoan, when he talked it up so much, and it was quite shit. But
it had its moments.
It had its moments. I know a very good friend of yours, Francesca, was on it, so I don't.
Andrea,
yes, a lot of your good friends are on it, so we don't want to bag it out too much. But I think I actually read somewhere that this episode 2 was his favourite episode of the season, and I don't know if this was the strongest episode of the season either.
Yeah, with the Entertainment Weekly stuff, he had said actually that he thought the best episode of the season was Lindsay's boot, like leading into it. And then this episode, he said, was one of the best of the season. And again, I'm like, don't get me wrong, they were not bad episodes. These aren't. It's not a dud cast. It's not a dud season, even close to that. But Haley's boot was one of the best of the season. Like, I mean, it was the majority picking off one of the 4 bottom ones, and there was some excitement going in. And also, I feel like, I guess one of the things that speaks to the show's strength and how they don't manipulate the game is that obviously that episode was really setting us up hard to root against Dan. So kind of the cheap ending would have been for Dan to go home, and we all get this like false sense of excitement and like, oh boy. But you can only do what happens in the game, and if the 7 just pick off the 4, they're going to have to find other ways to make it interesting. And to their credit, last night was an interesting episode, even though one of the minority people went home.
It seems as though that even though this has the potential to be almost like an old-school pagonging of a minority, with this blue-collar alliance, you never know what you're going to expect, do you? Because they've turned against themselves. It looks like...
Do we? Like, don't we, though? Aren't they just going to stick together, even though, like, Sierra hates Dan and Rodney hates Mike? Like, I think we do know what they're going to do. I think we do know that they have shown a solidarity that is so impressive in light of how much they don't like each other. So I'm not sure that we don't I'm not sure they are so unpredictable. I think they are I think they're wise. I mean, how many times do we see people fracture and splinter because of silly personal, vendettas? But, I mean, Rodney, who would have thought Rodney would have been so calm, cool, and collective, as he likes to say, as to stick with the alliance that he should be, despite them having betrayed him. So, I don't know. They have an impressive unity that kind of makes it a little boring.
It's hard. It's a good point you make, because, I mean, someone like Rodney, who pre-game everybody thought this guy's just going to be a whack job and just go off all the time. I mean, he has his moments where he does do that, and then he seems to pull it in together. And we had this moment this week, didn't we, with him and Will, where it was kind of like, dude, show me the love, bro, give me your love. And like, they're going to wait back and see and let Mike control the show and all this sort of stuff. I mean, what's your take on how Rodney's playing this game? Do you think he is playing a good game? Is he in a good position? I mean, what's your take on him?
Am I wrong to think Rodney is maybe playing the best game so far? Is that crazy?
No,
because
I want to hear these thoughts. Tell me why, Brian.
I know we're all on the Mike train right now, whether by like choice or by being kidnapped, but I think it's Rodney, right? Because Rodney is the one who we have now in 2 separate episodes heard that he's got his like secret little 4 group going on, and that he's going to look to overthrow the 7 at Final 4. Barring any kind of Joe immunity run or Mike with his idol, Rodney, I think, is being set up as the one keeping the Blue and the maybe not the Blue together, but the who are they? Tyler and Carolyn and Will. Maybe it is actually Rodney who has sold Tyler, Carolyn, and Will with this deal of, at Final 7, I'm going to splinter off with you guys. So I think actually Rodney might have the better game, despite being a complete lunkhead and having an utter inability to shut his mouth because he just has to keep it real all the time.
It's so interesting the way you put that. We had Richard Hatch on about 2 weeks ago, and he basically said there is no chance in hell that Rodney is winning this game. And then we had...
What would Richard Hatch know, please?
And we had the Twinnies on last week, and both of them gave Rodney as their tip to win. So it's kind of fascinating to have, obviously with Natalie, part of the Twinnies, and Richard, have 2 winners' different perspective, and then kind of you now coming out and saying Rodney, because I think Rodney has a good chance of winning this game. And
I don't know if he can win a jury vote. Maybe I should rephrase that. Do you think he could?
Well, I thought after Jen's comment, that throwaway comment where she was like, I fucking hate you, which I initially assumed was directed at Rodney, that maybe that was kind of setting him up to, he's going to get to final trouble, but everyone's going to hate him. But I think in a secret scene, Jen was talking about that comment being directed more so at Joe, because he won the immunity challenge. So I don't know if that came down to editing, that was the way it was made to look, or I don't know. But yeah, the jury's obviously where it all comes down to at the end, so that's the big question. Can he win that jury vote?
I mean... It'll be... There's a lot of game left to be played. It's only the first juror. He's got to get rid of about 7 more jurors before anything happens, so... We'll see. Just at this point, I do think that he's got such an abrasive personality that he might be hard. Is he the kind of person you want to give $1 million to? He just, I don't know. You're like, what is this idiot going to do with $1 million? Like, buy hookers and booze? Like, okay. I don't know.
We had that whole scene where he was at the camp and he was telling Shireen and Sierra off for the food situation. And usually in those moments we get sort of some throwaway comments from Shireen or Sierra saying, oh God, he's so bossy, I can't stand him. But the whole time it was just Rodney narrating that moment. I don't know if you sort of picked up on that. I found that interesting that we're getting his perspective and not people going off at him for that.
Well, in order for us to have gotten other people's perspective, we would have had to hear from Sierra, and that's not an option.
Yeah, I don't even realize she's on the show half the time, so...
Yeah, I guess she's the only dud, right? I think out of the 11 people in the episode, I think Sierra might be the only dud. Maybe Will. Maybe Will's a bit of a dud, just because who cares? But... Shireen, certainly, that is the surprising point. Yeah, I guess we should have heard more from Shireen about Rodney. Did we? I'd have to replay the scene.
I don't
There was
think
no
we didn't, because, I mean, this was a very Shireen-centric episode, and obviously we're going to talk a lot about her. But, yeah, no, I don't think we got any Shireen comments against Rodney, which is strange, because Shireen often has a lot to say about most people.
Yeah. Just Shireen's not one to not have opinions, which is why she's a great character.
Do you like her? Because I think she divides a lot of the fans out there.
I mean, I do think that I'm not sure I would call her this season's greatest player by any means. Do I find her entertaining? Certainly she brings something to the show, and that's what I appreciate. Like, I like her a lot more than, for example, Sierra or Will. Even Rodney I like better than Sierra and Will, because I'm always of the mind, I don't really care if I like you or don't like you. I want to know that you were brought on the show for a reason. Like, what is your purpose for being here? Are you going to entertain the audience? Are you going to play the game? Are you going to be at least have some emotions generated about you? So in that aspect, I think Shireen is a wild success as far as a casting choice. She's a super fan. She has opinions. She's articulate. She's trying to play a game for sure. So yeah, I like Shireen just fine. Absolutely.
And I know that you obviously have the Wine and Cheese crew. We've talked about a heap on this show, and saw the photo yesterday, Brian, of yourself, Francesca, Sophie, Eliza. You guys all hanging out watching
Courtney.
Yes, of course too. I mean, when you're watching that, I mean, what's their take on someone like Shireen? Are they sort of loving her character? Are they sort of just dissing her all the time?
So it's very hard. It's very hard for Eliza because Eliza makes way more connections with the current contestants than I do. She's very, very heavily involved on Twitter, and so Eliza really can't ever go past her personal biases for people, or against or for people. So she I think met Shireen at one of the Rob Has a Podcasts in New York, which unfortunately I couldn't go to because I was working. So Eliza now already knows Shireen from that one experience. So, like, not a negative word about Shireen will come from Eliza's mouth, which is, Eliza is crazy loyal like that. Fiercely, fiercely loyal like that. So I don't know any of these people, so I will dump on them till the cows come home. Because I haven't met them, I don't know them. And we were all on the show. We know what it's like to have people who we don't know judge us based on things that weren't completely edited the way they happen. Like, I get it, but it's not going to stop me from saying things about you, just for fun as a viewer. So watching it, Eliza will champion for sure Shireen. Franny does not care for Shireen. At least, again, from what we're seeing on the show. Franny was like, why are we all rooting for Shireen? Like, I don't get it. Why do we like Shireen? She's so annoying. And honestly, Franny and Courtney haven't watched a ton of this season, so we were kind of having to fill them in on who's who. But Sophie, I'm thinking, was liking Shireen, I think. Gosh, no, I don't remember.
I can imagine Sophie would... Yeah, I mean, we haven't had Sophie on the show, so I haven't spoken to her, but I can imagine Sophie watching Survivor. I could see her as having very strong opinions, yet not, I don't know how to put this, not to the extent of, say, like Eliza, who's very outspoken about those opinions, but when Sophie has an opinion, I'm guessing she would say it, and it would be almost like a strong opinion, and it means something, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Sophie's more measured, for sure. She had great ideas about, I think, Tyler, saying she really didn't like Tyler, I think it was.
Right.
And her point was, I think her point was a good one, if I'm remembering it accurately. Tyler gave Mike, like, the whole clue to the idol. Why not just be like, I guess Mike saw the whole clue being read, so you can't really fake that he didn't know it. But, like, maybe mislead him a little bit. Like, I don't know. Why? I mean, here's the end of this game. The end of this game is Tyler told Mike about the idol clue. Now Mike has the idol and Tyler doesn't. So how wise was it of Tyler? I don't know. I mean, I know. It wasn't, is the answer to that question.
It's interesting with that whole scenario and, Tyler with the clue and sort of whether or not he could mislead it. It sort of reminded me of Judd and the idol in Guatemala. Like, could he not have done something like Judd? Like,
definitely not on the ground, or what was it, or in the trees or something.
Yes, like, I could just see a similar situation like that happening, but though he ended up telling the truth. So we wanted some sort of Judd callback. I mean, is Rodney... Here's an interesting comparison. Is Rodney as a character similar to a Judd, how he's...
I see where you're going. Yeah? We haven't gotten a lot of Judds, right? No. Judd is a fairly one-of-a-kind character in the Survivor pantheon. Yeah, I guess Rodney's a little bit like Judd. That's a pretty solid call, Ben. Yeah, I think he might be our Judd. Judd, oh God, I mean, I'm so endeared to Judd. Like, and Judd is so endearing to me because I know Judd, and I don't know Rodney. So Judd to me is just so funny, and Rodney, I just feel like although I think if I, I didn't meet Judd until my finale. I actually was never on the same team as Judd, and then we were separated by the pre-jury and the jury. So I didn't meet Judd until my finale. So I'll watch my season. I was like, oh, this guy is like how is he treating Margaret? And then I met Judd like a few times in New York, and I was like, oh, he's kind of funny, actually. I like Judd. So maybe that's how I feel about Rodney.
Yes, that would be an interesting one. And the other one, this is a bit more off on a slight tangent with Tyler and Rafe comparisons. Can you see it?
Only in the beady little eyes.
Well, that's better. That's better than you completely shutting me down. So I'll take that, I think.
Yeah, I mean, like the quiet, masterminding, friends with everyone, kind of making sure you're good on all sides. That was a very Rafe thing, very Tyler thing. God, I find Tyler so... I'm just like, Tyler. I feel about Tyler the same way I feel about Mike, which is, I get that you're playing... I'm not going to say you're not playing a good game. I'm not going to say you were bad casting choices. Like, I get it. I just fundamentally have almost like no opinion about... I just don't care. Like, I don't care. And again, I haven't met them. I'm sure, the Dirty 30 can't stop talking about how charismatic Mike is. Like, I get it. And I'm sure if I met him, I'd be like, this guy's awesome. But as a viewer, like, part of me just resents the whole... music playing when Mike, and I'm crying because I found an idol, and I'm America. Like, I just, I like resent being told who to like.
It was very, forced, that whole idol finding scene.
It was very forced. Yes, it was.
And it's kind of the way you put that about sort of feeling the way you are about those two, because I think a lot of people, I know personally, a lot of these casts, I'm feeling very, like, meh about a lot of them. It's kind of, you don't hate them, but you're just kind of nothing them, and
honestly, even kind of Haley and Joe, maybe, like, is that blasphemy? Like, they're great, but again, I think the only person who I was like really like yes about was Jen, and that's because I just find her humor to be so similar to mine and so similar to my friend's humor. I just think that it's Jen is someone I would really just enjoy. She's snarky, she's flippant, she's witty, she's quick, and I am so attracted to that in a contestant. But even people like Joe and Haley, who I find myself rooting for mostly because they're associated with Jen, I mean, are we really getting anything from them that makes you be like, boom, yes, great insight, what a comment, so cool? It's more like, wow, Joe, you're really good at challenges, and you seem like a really level-headed, intelligent person. I like you for that. Haley, you're kind of adorable. That thing about, we're the biggest flippers of all. We're America. Like, that was so cute. I just want to put you in a bottle and leave you on my shelf and, like, clap if you ever start dying to keep you alive. Yeah, like, I think it's a good cat. I feel like I'm contradicting myself. I don't know. Maybe you can figure out what I'm trying to say.
I feel what you're trying to say, because it's not like this cast is unlikable. It's just, I feel on cast there are generally standouts that you really, really feel the need to root for. Like, even say last season when a lot of people bagged out and dissed the cast as not being particularly well liked, there was still, like, you had a Keith, you had a Natalie, you had these standouts.
I don't know what I'm rooting for Keith, but yes, I'll agree with Natalie.
Yeah, but I don't know, like, I mean, Mike is... Yeah, you mentioned the Mike train before, and it's clear what we're being shown here. But do you feel that this is just setting him up as the, quote, winner's edit, or is this he's going to get blindsided by Rodney in this secret 4 alliance edit?
I mean, it's unequivocally a winner's edit, whether or not he's the actual winner. Like, he's certainly getting the edit of a winner. If he kind of flames out a la, I don't know, like a Lex or somebody who goes very far, Rob Sesternino.
So like your designated third placer from those early seasons. So
yeah, kind of the equivalent of that. I mean, last season I was so convinced Jeremy was the winner. I mean, Jimmy was just the winner from day one. It was like broadcast. So I was really surprised. And maybe I need to stop bagging on San Juan del Sur so much because...
Please stop bagging out on it, Brian, because I'm telling you now, I'm one of the biggest advocates
I like your list of 10 worst reputation seasons. I saw that. Yeah.
And Guatemala are on that, rightfully so.
It was on that, but you said it was getting more appreciated each year.
Well, it is. I think it's kind of, it gradually it is more so liked. But San Juan del Sur, I don't know if you rewatched seasons, Brian. But I've rewatched Samuel del Sur recently, and I love it. And I honestly will say that I, up to this point, enjoyed Samuel del Sur a lot more than I'm enjoying Worlds Apart.
I gotta say, I think that we're all a little bit maybe brainwashed by the overhype of the season and by the social media presence of the Dirty 30 and just how intimate they all seem to be as friends post-show, and maybe we're just kind of all jumping on that bandwagon. But I think there was some more excitement in the season last season by this point. I mean, Josh getting overthrown. Josh was the first juror. So I guess that's where we are. We are up to the equivalent right now of Josh from last season getting voted out. So what did you really have before that? You had kind of the silliness with Drew. You had Julie quitting. You had the whole rocker incident with Natalie. I guess not much.
I found last season was, I think it was because, there was barely anybody on that season I think who'd really ever seen Survivor. So it was a lot of very average players playing a game and we saw how easily it was for someone like Natalie to, manipulate half the people on that show at the end and be like, oh yeah, I stuffed that vote up. Oh, sorry, my bad. And everyone believed her.
Right.
Whereas I don't think anybody in this season would fall for it. But I think on the flip side with this season, we've got potentially good players who are maybe not making super smart moves, like we saw that with Tyler and the whole giving up the clue and all that. I don't know if you feel that's how this is playing out, but I don't know. It's interesting, sort of looking at this season compared to San Juan del Sur and hearing the fans' reaction of that, because I know fans just do not like San Juan del Sur at all.
Yeah. Well, yeah. With San Juan del Sur, you did have the people like Wes and Alec, and you were just like, why are you here? When are we getting rid of those guys, even to an extent for a lot of the season, people like Jacqueline and John, until they kind of really came into their own a little bit after the merge. Missy. So last season I think was just slightly more unlikable. Maybe the better comparison we should be making is to Cagayan. Three teams of 6. And Cagayan was just fun for me the whole way through. The Brains Tribe saga in the beginning, of the whole Lindsay, Trish, Cliff business, and then Sarah getting blindsided at the merge, which was so much fun to watch. And I liked Sarah, but that was Cagayan just kind of sparkled with energy the whole way through. And this season I'm kind of like, oh, good episode. Okay, good episode. Okay. Yeah, I guess I like Joe. Yeah, Haley's cute. Carolyn could be a good winner. Okay. I don't know.
Yeah. It's Cagayan was just brilliant. And it's interesting sort of when you mention the 3 tribes, because obviously, as I said, we haven't had you on since Blood vs. Water, so we've never really had an opportunity to chat to you about your thoughts on a 3-tribe format of Survivor. Do you like 3-tribe formats?
I love it. I think it's great because I think you get to know people a lot faster. The producers are forced to highlight each of the 3 tribes. And each tribe only has 6 people, so you don't have this kind of massive tribe of 10 that's being featured, but you're really only hearing from 3 of them. Now you kind of have to hear from maybe 3 people on each of the tribes. So instead of there being 6 people highlighted out of the cast of 20, you've got 9 people highlighted out of a cast of 18, and you start to kind of get a better sense of it. There's it's harder for bad players to hide in a group of 6 than it is in a group of 9 or 10. I think you end up with better casting decisions. I think you end up with more fluid dynamics once the teams swap and merge and all that. I think a 3-tribe format works pretty well.
And you look at every 3-tribe season we've had. I mean, obviously, you can't really say too much this season. I love All-Stars, Brian. Come on.
Jenna Lewis was my first true love.
Yeah. Well, look, Jenna Lewis is quite popular on this show too. So, and no, we haven't seen a porn before you ask. It's usually what people assume when we say she's popular. But I like this season again. Obviously, it's too early to sort of put comparisons to those other ones because we're only just on the halfway point. But I love 3-tribe seasons, love them to bits. Yeah. And I mean, I even actually like 4 tribes. We've only obviously seen that twice, but I think Panama
and both times for like 2 episodes.
Yeah, well, exactly. But yeah, I don't know. I like these sort of experimentations with these tribes, and more so than just the 2-tribe because, as you said, like. You get sort of focused on a couple of people. Your season, classic example of that. I mean, some of the early boots from your season, often a lot of people forget even played Survivor, I feel sometimes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Morgan, Brianna, and Brooke.
Yes.
Sorry.
Hi, guys, if you're listening to the show.
By the way, 3 of the most wonderful people you ever meet, but yeah, we're not featured at all.
I will say, actually, Jim has turned into quite a good friend of ours on the show, actually. He's been on plenty of times. And
are you kidding? Yeah. Jim Lynch?
Yeah.
Oh, God, I have not seen or talked to Jim Lynch since 2005, but that man was a hoot. Yeah. He was so much fun on our pre-jury trip. Yeah.
It was a very random, by chance meeting that we got connected with him, and then he made a few appearances, and then he actually, a few email exchanges with him, sent me some photos, I think actually of the pre-merge trip, actually.
Oh, God, we were so raucous. Did he tell you how he and Morgan had, like, drinking contests?
Oh, no.
Like, the two of them would, like, shot after shot to, like, see who could hold. And, of course, obviously, Jim would win. Man, Jim was a really entertaining guy to have on that trip. Yeah, it was great spending time with him.
He was talking about building his own helicopter, I think, the last
I was going to ask if you brought that up. Yeah, that's like a real big hobby.
Yeah, no, well, look, I've never met somebody who's built their own helicopter before, Brian, so...
I don't know that I would want to be in a helicopter with someone who built their own helicopter, but sure.
You want them to tell you that before you got in it. Like, you would want them to be up in the air. Oh, by the way, I built this.
This was like a standard built helicopter, I find. I find my friends' helicopters just aren't as sturdy, yes. I would say, maybe. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, you mentioned Jen. You're really a big fan of Jen. So is there anybody besides Jen who's left that you are finding yourself rooting for? Or is it kind of just what you're saying, that they're all a bit like, meh?
I mean, I like Shireen because of the interactions I've had with her on Twitter, and because I think she would fit in very well with our kind of annoying New York crew, for sure. So I think I would really enjoy Shireen. I think she's very intelligent. I think she's driven, white collar. I think I could relate a lot to Shireen. I mean, as a player, am I like, man, she's got the look of a winner? No. And, the previews, even Jen, the previews for next week, showing how she's kind of like ready to throw in the towel because it's not fun anymore. I think that's not a great edit either. So, it's like, am I going to just end up with Stockholm Syndrome and be like, Mike is great. I want Mike to win. Mike has an idol. I mean, again, there's Joe, who I think is great. But Joe doesn't get, like, a lot of actual... in like screen time of confessionals, does he? Am I making that up?
No, you're right. Like Joe to me is sort of billed as this Malcolm Aussie 2.0 without the personality.
Kind of, and to one degree that's a plus, because I feel like both Malcolm and Ozzy could really tend toward blowhard arrogant status. Yeah. And certainly Joe does not seem to have that gene in him. But it certainly made Malcolm and Ozzy more of a compelling character, absolutely more compelling characters by far. Even if maybe Joe is in theory more likable. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously Malcolm and Ozzy had their huge fan bases when it was airing, but I mean, I don't really see massive Joe fans out there, if you know what I mean.
And if you do, it's just because it's like, because he's cute and look at that curly hair, and like, he's winning challenges, which is super impressive. I mean, not to take anything away from that.
3 in a row. Now
undefeated in individual so far.
Hasn't really been challenged much either. Do you think he's got a potential here to maybe go all the way with this?
I mean, that would be a really interesting season if, like, it's just Joe against the world, Joe versus the volcano here, and we just watch him kind of go, because we haven't seen a really solid immunity run from a person on the complete, like a run, not just like they win immunity when they need it, but like immunity run. You know, those classic kind of Kelly Wigglesworth, Colby Donaldson, Terry Dietz. I guess Colby never needed it, and maybe Kelly didn't either.
I just like the fact you bring up Kelly Wigglesworth. Anytime Kelly Wigglesworth gets mentioned on this podcast, I smile. So.
Well, you know about the season 31 rumors, right?
Trust me, if she's officially confirmed on that list and voting, we're running the biggest social media campaign in the history of the world to get her back on Survivor, Brian. So.
Don't you think that probably the producers need to have some sort of heavy hand in this? Don't you think they must have called up Kelly Wigglesworth and be like, look, we're going to put you to fan vote, but we promise you we'll get on. Like, we're going to call somebody from 15 years ago and be like, you may or may not get on the show. Yeah. Like, we'll put you on the show. We're just going to run the stupid guise of a fan vote. Right? I mean, doesn't that kind of have to be the case?
I definitely agree that there will be a bit of influence, particularly with some of the people on the list, who a lot of people are going, really, them? And if they end up on the show, then people are going to be going, what?
Yeah, I mean, there certainly had to be some fodder on the list, for sure.
No Guatemala people, Brian. What is going on?
Ben, we just can't get a break. Nobody likes us. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, what are you going to do? But yeah, I basically want to see an entire cast of like old. I want to see Greg Buis. I want to see Kelly Wigglesworth. I want to see Kimmy Kappenberg. I want to see Jeff Varner, Teresa Cooper. I mean, Andrew Savage, I could give or take, but you know, Jeff's like boner is going to put him on the show, so we'll see him.
The thing that is just so great about this list is that to see that these people are literally being considered. Like, it's not like we're being forced, like, you know, they're all people from the last 10 seasons, if you know what I mean. Like, who would have ever thought that Kelly Wigglesworth, Teresa Cooper, you know, Kimmy Kappenberg are going to be considered to be brought back, like, 15 years later?
Well, I mean, it's like the Jervis effect. Yes. I couldn't be happier about it. I mean, it could be me. But barring that, there is a dearth of people, really, from seasons 8. Well, 8 was All-Stars. So there's a dearth of people from season 9 to, like, 21. You've got your PG, who would be great, yes. Terry and Shane, and Steven, obviously, who I, you know, totally love. So those 4, I think, maybe I'm leaving someone out, but, like, those 4 kind of represent the entire middle era of Survivor. It really seems like you need to either be a pioneering player or a recent player, pretty much.
Well, I'll just quickly apologise to listeners if you didn't want to be spoiled, but I think these are out there enough.
Oh my God, I'm sorry.
I think they're out there enough that we're actually going to be doing an episode on this shortly anyway to talk more about this. But
and not to mention, that's not even the guaranteed cast anyway. Well, exactly. It's just might be up to a vote. Yeah, okay.
But the one I mean, Shane and Terry, I mean, they're the perennial, they nearly were on a season since Mike Skupin has finally got a chance again. And then, like, Troy Zan, I think Marty's on the list, isn't he, from Nicaragua? Like, these are the ones that are all...
No, Marty's not.
No,
Marty.
Oh, okay.
No.
I must have seen a different
Jim Rice from South Pacific.
Right, maybe... Well, they don't look anything alike, but... I was about to say, maybe I got them confused, but hang on a minute.
Like,
no.
Kind of middle-agey guy from a middling season.
One deals pot, one claims he's a chess champion. Okay.
Right.
But, like... Yeah, like, I swear if I was Terry Dietz or Shane, and once again, you're like, oh, fuck, this really isn't going to happen this time. Like, you know, because they're on every single cast and they get cut at the last moment.
Yeah. It's a little bit like Charlie Brown in the football, right? Yep. But I again, this is kind of, I think, why I have this idea that it's got to... So I'm just re-looking at the list to see if I was wrong about Marty. Yeah, no, Marty's not on there. What was I saying? So, Terry Dietz and Shane, right. I feel like that kind of thing makes me think, yeah, maybe the producers are like, don't worry, we'll push you on. Because Shane has been pretty vocal about, like, fuck this, I'm, like, left off the list again, like, one and done, like, never again. Yeah. So for Shane to be, like, back in the running, I feel like there have to be some behind-the-scenes machinations to be like, look, we promise you we're not going to drop you again this time.
Yeah.
I feel like he would salt the earth and burn their bones. Like,
Yeah, we've had Terry on the show a lot, and we always bring it up with him, and he's sort of always a bit coy about it, and he's sort of, we've had Troy Zan on a lot, and Troy Zan's always a bit coy about it, but I feel like they're always so close to getting back on. But I've got the list in front of me actually here too, and look, I know we're kind of getting a bit sidetracked from Worlds Apart, but look, I'm going to actually ask a question related to Worlds Apart, because there are obviously people that are on this list for potentially returning. Actually, I'll ask that right now. There's allegedly 2 females on Worlds Apart and 3 males that have been touted to be put to this list. And I will just say for listeners who are going right now, what the fuck are you talking about? So for 31 or 32, more likely season 31, it's been touted that there's, I think, 30, is it 30 or 40? 40 people that they're going to put to a fan vote, allegedly, for people to vote for who will be an entire All-Stars cast. And these so-called 40, the majority have all been leaked, except really for the Worlds Apart one. So who do you feel, and I will say these are all one-time players and no winners are coming back. So who do you feel could be these 2 female and 3 males as returnees?
I mean, it all obviously depends on who ends up winning, because if it's a no-winner season, that will rule out at least one person left. So it seems like the women need to, I'm kind of surprised by there being only 2 women. I feel like I would have thought maybe Shireen, Jen, and Carolyn, those 3. I mean, maybe looking at the list, maybe Haley. I would have said no to Haley, but then the list has people like Angie Layton and Michaela, so maybe Haley. But Monica Padilla is on the list, so...
Brian, let's just be honest here. We know she's going to get on, and we know she's probably going to fucking win, so...
Well, of course, right? She's the Parvati, I guess.
She's the Amber,
Right, yeah.
No offense to Monica Padilla if she's listening, but, like...
No. So, yeah, I'm surprised there's only 2 women. Unless maybe someone like Carolyn couldn't do it, get the time away from her kids or her job again. Or Shireen, maybe can't take off all that time from Yahoo. I would have to think Jen needs to be a lock for one of them, right? What else is Jen doing? She's, based on Twitter pics, she's not employed. Well, she's like all over the country all the time.
If she got a jet ski, though, Brian, all she cares about is a jet ski. So if she got that, I don't think she's coming back.
We all have goals in life, so...
But the males, surely you would feel like if Mike doesn't win, you'd feel Mike's a lock.
Of course, absolutely.
And I've got a real feeling, and I mean, because obviously I know Max is very well known in the Survivor community and fan community before he was ever on Survivor. But I don't know, I feel like Max is somebody who would be brought back, because I think I've read that there's a pre-merge. I don't know if it was a male or a female, or maybe it was didn't really disclose it. But there's at least one pre-merge from Worlds Apart that is on this list. So I'm guessing that could be Max.
Yeah, probably.
You don't sound too excited about that.
I mean, this is complete sour grapes, though. Like that is like I'm just total bitter Betty about that. Like. If you're going to bring back again, it's just this, like, I'm, like, lost in the annals of time. And I get it. I'm not a delusional, crazy person. I get that a pre-juror from 10 years ago was probably not going to come back, although Andrew Savage and Jeff Garner. But, like...
And Kimmy.
Bringing Max back, or Kimmy, okay, true. But men, I mean, there's definitely a different standard for casting producers with men and women. I mean, for sure. But, like... I don't know, you want to bring back a superfan who didn't make the merge? What did Max really give us? What did Max provide us? He had a planner's war and he was naked. Like, he wasn't particularly snarky. He wasn't this, like, rootable Spencer underdog. He wasn't the, like, lovable antisocial weirdo like Cochran. He was just kind of like this guy who got voted out early, and we know he's also a superfan, but did he do much? Like, what are, like, the moments you were like, Max moment, ooh, remember when he did this? Oh, that was so cool when he did this. Or, haha, that was funny when he did this. Like, I don't know. Max.
Yeah.
So anyway, like I say, complete bitter Betty. I think Max and I would get along really well because I think we have the same passion for the game. He's so intelligent. Like, everything about Max seems just A+. But, really? Bring back Joaquin before him. Bring back Saul.
What about Vince? What about Vince?
I mean, I could go 100 years without seeing Vince again, and it would be too soon.
We loved to shit on Vince before the season, but like I think halfway through the episode where he got booted, we're all like, hang on a minute, Vince is kind of cool to watch, and then he went.
Yeah, I guess Vince was a little... Well, no, I'm not even going to go there. No, I'm done. I'm fine with never seeing Vince.
All right. Again, as I said, we will do an episode and talk more about this cast because we sort of haven't put the whole list out there, but it's out there. If you want to search for it, it's easily findable. Yeah. And for the most part, there's some potentially big names and good people that could be on this. Mm-hmm. It actually surprises me that there's as many Salman Del Sur people on there because I think I didn't really think they would, because Jeff doesn't like that season as well, like most fans don't. But
yeah, but really, I mean, I think it's only 3 people from that season, and it's your standards Keith and Jeremy, like who you say were people were really rooting for Keith, and Jeremy was a huge character. Kelly Wentworth, I think, is just a really active. She was up for Rob as a podcast, Miss Survivor, so I guess that's where Kelly kind of comes into play here. But I'd be surprised if she actually made it. Well,
that's true, and I think what a lot of people find outside of the show, and like we find that with you, Brian, and yes, I'm just sucking up to you, but also like a lot of these people who sort of go a lot earlier and we don't get a big edit, or we sort of, people say, quote, don't remember people. You find that in shows like ours, like Rob's, online, social media, that there's obviously a lot of potential there that we should have seen more of, and had you gone further, that you would have been, super more likely to come back and all these sort of things. So maybe they're tapping into that potential that could have been there. But
yeah, which I appreciate. Obviously, I support the idea. So
yes, indeed. Now back to Worlds Part. One person we haven't sort of really talked about, Dan. We had this lovely interaction with Dan and Shireen, and we had Dan's whole little just going off at her for whatever reason. I'll ask separately about his controversial confessional, but I mean, this whole Dan Shireen moment and Dan in general, what the hell is this guy doing?
Well, I wasn't clear on when he's like, why is it that superfans can't do the numbers? Like, this is totally the wrong voice for Dan, but message received. Why isn't that superfans can't do the numbers? Why are you lying to yourself? I didn't get that. She didn't know at that point where Carolyn and Tyler and Will were going. Like, what is she going to do? At the point where she ended up in the minority, had Carolyn, Tyler, and Will gone with them, she would have had the numbers. Yep. So I'm like, what do you mean you're not aligning yourself with the numbers? She tried. There was a swing faction. They swung the other way. Like, what do you mean she can't do math? That she thought maybe there was a chance. And, then what's the plan after that? Dan just was making no sense to me. I'm like, what is she supposed to do now? Get in with your group of 7 and be number 8? Like, that's not a numbers game either. I don't know what Dan's point was. I don't care for Dan. Anyway, you're
biting your tongue there. Good job. I think with Dan, what surprises me is that pre-game he was like, no fan has ever done as much as I have to try and get on this show. I've travelled, 30,000 miles, whatever he said. But for somebody who is allegedly as big a fan as he is, he really seems to have no clue how to play this game.
Well, I think the problem I have with Dan results not so much from his controversial comments or sexism or misogyny or whatever. I mean, obviously not great. But I think I have a more fundamental problem with Dan, which is I think he's just a tryhard. I think he's ultimately just this really insecure person. And I find those people are very rarely interesting to me. I don't want to have to deal with you overcoming whatever weird insecurities you have not worked through in your 40 years of life. Figure it out by the time you're 25, or else I just don't have time for you. And so Dan, to come on the show, for one of the first things to say, to be like, you will remember me. I'm already bored with you. I'm already bored with your need for attention, your need to say something. For example, you know what he said this episode that I was like, that is such a dumb, it's such an uninteresting platitude. When he was like, Shireen's an idiot savant. Maybe more toward idiot. I'm like, okay. Good one, Dan. You're the first person to make that comment in the history of the world of puns. It's just, you're boring, Dan. You're boring. You need to be funny. You need to be interesting. You need to be heard. You need to be seen. I don't care. I just don't care about you.
Do you think he has the potential to be dragged along as a goat towards the end and get no votes?
Yeah. Sure. Yes.
I have to touch on the confessional. You obviously mentioned their sexist, misogynist comments there saying towards him. I saw Eliza's her tweet against what he said. Obviously, I'm talking about his somebody needs to slap Shireen comment. I mean, do you feel that it was a sexist comment, or do you feel just in the heat of the moment he said it, and like if he was, say, talking about Mike, wanting to slap Mike, obviously we wouldn't be saying anything about it. I mean, what's your take on what he said about it?
I mean, I am one of the least sensationalist people out there. Like, I just can't get riled up by quick flipping Like, do I think that he's a misogynist for that? That's a strong. I mean, maybe he's for other reasons. I don't know. I don't know him. That's a real strong accusation. How many times have we all said, like, you know, God, I'm going to kill him. I'm going to kill her. I want to kill you. Like, no, I don't literally want to kill you. And is it the wisest thing in the world to say I want to slap you? No, but I mean, have we all said something like that? Maybe there's a lot more context behind that quote where people can kind of be like, you are a total, like, misogynist. But from a quote like that, like, I want to slap you, I just feel like often that quote is really innocuous, especially in a situation where you're completely frustrated with somebody who you find tremendously annoying, who you're forced to live with and can't get away from. I get the venting of that kind of silly thing to say without kind of having to then brand him with these giant terms. And I don't like Dan. I don't like him at all. But it's always just to me a little bit much when everyone's like, boom, you're a racist. Boom, you're a homophobe. Boom, you're an anti-Semite. Boom, you're a misogynist. Like, okay, but are they though? Like, that's a big term.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I will just say we've had some experiences of late where we've been labelled things very unfairly. And yeah, so it can get out of hand quite quickly. Not to take away, I mean, people are obviously entitled to their opinions in certain situations, but I mean, it's kind of interesting. We touched on a little bit about social media presence of this cast. They're a very close cast. That's very well established, but I mean, there are other things this episode too. Like, I mean, there was sort of a running joke this episode that no one could remember Shireen's name. And then I think on social media it turned into a different kettle of fish that this was all a bit racist or something that because she had a foreign name. I don't know, Brian. I'm not sort of trying to open up a can of worms here.
I mean, I'm not sure it's racist. It's certainly stupid. You can't pronounce Shireen. Yeah. Okay, you're an idiot. Like that, I'm going to indict you as an idiot. You can't figure out Shireen. It's 2 syllables, both of which are pretty easy. It's not like her name is some. It's not like we're coming from the closer language with like a click tongue, and you just can't phonetically make that sound. Like, you're an idiot if you can't pronounce Shireen. I'm not sure you're a racist. I mean, I understand the underlying current of like something foreign to me is something I'm not interested in learning, and that's a bad mentality. Like, that's a danger. But I'm, fundamentally just think you're an idiot. That's all.
Yeah. No, it's a very interesting topic. One thing, we're going to get to the listener questions here in a minute and to our final 5, but I've got to bring up, this is from last week, essentially, but I've still got to bring this up, Brian. Merged tribe name, America.
Look, I feel like I think we just have to concede it is better than no bag. Right?
Is it though? We were discussing this last week.
I think yes, it is. No bag, that is the pinnacle of bad Survivor names. I mean, that's even worse than like Chuejai or like Shakum. Like, no bag. Like, we're just gonna reverse the letters of our country. Like, okay. Like, America, it's funny, I think. I think fundamentally it comes to a point where you're just like, okay, I mean, in kind of the blue collar, the white collar, the red, well, no collar, and like, I mean, I guess it's like the red, white, and blue is a little bit of a stretch because really it's white, blue, and no, and the team colors are really red, yellow, and blue. Yes. So it's like Colombia or some other flag. Is Colombia? Did I just?
No, actually, no. Colombia's. No, you're correct. There, it could be.
Am I right?
Yeah, could be Ecuador, Romania.
Wow, you're really rattling them off. Okay.
I'm a bit of a flagophobe.
Wow, I'm sorry I've exposed you as such.
All right, there's always a time for that. What is it? There's a term for it because Sheldon had it on The Big Bang Theory when he hosted Fun with Flags. Don't know if you want.
There's a term for a flag?
Like
a file?
Yeah, like a person who's into flags.
Is it vexillology?
Could be.
I'm looking up. I looked up flag lover. Good thing I put the L in. Oh, now does that make me a horrible person? So it's just funny.
Yeah, no. We're learning a lot here. I'll find out that term by the end of this episode. I'll tell you that. But I loved you brought it up before with Haley and bringing up like the we're the greatest whatever. But I just love the way she said like we're Team America. Like, and I was just expecting all of a sudden, like, the national anthem to start playing in the background then.
Yes, well, you wouldn't understand how great our country is, being in Australia and all, so I don't expect you to understand.
I've witnessed American patriotism. I actually, in all honesty, I actually am very envious of the way you guys, and a lot of people perceive America as arrogant. I don't. I just think you guys love your country, and so you should. Why not? Be proud of where you live. Come on.
So it's a cute little name. I mean, I certainly was face-palming when I first heard it, but it's ultimately clever and cute and more creative than about 80% of the other names out there.
Now, the term, did you say vexillology before? Is that what you said to me?
Vexillology, I think,
Vexillology, yeah. No, that is the term. So there you go. Okay. Alrighty, to all our vexillologists out there, hello, wave those flags, literally. So, I mean, yeah, we've obviously touched on Haley. I mean, look, in the grand scheme of things, she's a first jury member. Overall, her game.
Mayor of Honduras.
Yeah. Anything to add on Haley that we haven't already touched on?
No, like I said with Joe, we didn't really get a lot from her, so you're kind of rooting for her, or I was rooting for her by default because she was associated with Jen, and I really like Jen. But she was certainly cute, which is such an insulting term for a person, but that's ultimately what we got from her.
We got a nice surfing scene with her and Jen, and they got naked a bit, so...
Well, I guess that's true. I mean, yeah, we didn't get a lot of, like, clever insight from her, I guess.
No, yeah. All right, well,
And I bet she had some. I'm sure she had some, but we weren't given a lot of that.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. And I'm sure in a lot of her exit interviews and everything, she's probably dished the dirt a little bit. So they're all out there for people to enjoy. And speaking of things to enjoy, listener questions, we always enjoy it. How's that for a segue? People can always send them in survivoroz@hotmail.com.au or through our social media channels, and of course check each week who we've got on the show. Now, first question is from one of our Ozlets, Julian Groneberg. Now, I know for a fact Julian is a huge Guatemala fan. I actually know he's been to Guatemala, and when he went there, they actually visited part of the area where your season was filmed, I believe.
God, Shakum Naranjo Park.
Yeah, so he's very fond of your season. Now, the question he asks, he says, have you been ziplining before? In Guatemala, you were robbed of the ziplining reward, being voted out before Yashar won in the next episode.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God, wow. Talk about a throwback. What are you, like a historian? That's amazing. I'm so impressed. Yes, I have been ziplining several times in several countries. Mm-hmm.
What's it like? It looks like a lot of fun.
I've also gone skydiving and bungee jumping, so ziplining to me is like the kiddie pool of those fun sports. Ziplining, it's fun. You're zooming through the canopies of a jungle. It's certainly thrilling. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. People should do it. I guess anything else I say is going to make me look like an asshole. So, yeah, it's fun. Go
I really want to get you on one, because I feel sometimes that you obviously like to hold back a bit. I just want to get you on one of these and just open up, Brian. Like it's like you open a can of Coke. Just go for it, Brian.
I mean, yeah, I could. I mean, nothing I can say about ziplining is going to make me sound like anything but an elitist asshole. It's like, yes, it's fun. Go ziplining.
Ziplining is fucking stupid.
I mean, it's not stupid. It's just like cheap little quick thrills. I mean, whatever. I've already talked myself into so far of a hole here that I'm just going to stop.
Okay. Now, Julie, as part of this question, also says, did Joe make the right choice of people to take to the reward, and who would you have taken if you were in his situation?
I thought Joe did a brilliant move. I thought it was fantastic. I think probably one of the most interesting things he did was not select either Haley or Jen as that final person, because then you're sort of pissing one off at the expense of the or gratifying one at the expense of the other. And I think you kind of just want to keep them both. Obviously, I think taking any of the blue collars would have been an effort in futility. Mm-hmm. I don't think they're splintering. So I think he picked the exact right 4 people. I think that was a very smart move from Joe. And I think there's a lot to Joe strategy. I just don't know that we're seeing enough of him articulate it as an editing choice. But that's why I think I would really like Joe. I think he's doing smart things. Mm-hmm.
One thing I will say in terms of that challenge, it's always great that we have individual reward challenges, because then we always see these moments where individuals have to choose people, and that's obviously such a big deal when it comes to, pissing people off and all that. We've seen that so many seasons before.
Yeah, it's great manufactured drama, and I'm surprised they, do team random draw reward challenges so much. I guess it's just easier on the challenge department and maybe the budget. Yeah.
Next question here, Willie LaShawn. Now, Willie says, first of all, big fan, Brian. There you go. And he wants to know, were there many stings or bites in your season like we're seeing this season, given that it was also filmed in Central America? I mean, it does. I've seen so many stings and bites this season.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't have the whole stingray. I mean, of course, my season we didn't have the beach, so we just had that lake with the crocodile. So, a crocodile bite would be just slightly worse than a stingray sting. But we were covered in mosquitoes. Fortunately for me, they really liked Amy, and they didn't really like me. So I would often just sit near Amy because they would just go to Amy. Her skin tastes better, I guess. But we had mosquitoes, we had tarantulas, we had scorpions. I think Jamie was stung by a scorpion or something. Jamie definitely was. He was definitely stung by a scorpion.
Did he eat a scorpion?
He did not. He did not. No, he was not Mike levels of like.
Stand up in a tree and eat ants.
No. Termites. We did eat termites. Well, no, I didn't eat termites. It was like day 4, and Rafe and Gary found that termite nest, and they were like, termites. And I was like, yeah, I'm like still digesting the pizza that I had before the game started. I'm fine, thank you.
I think next week, we just each week should be like, what will Mike eat this week? Like,
yeah, what will Mike eat? I tweeted, I'm waiting for him to eat crow. Wordplay.
Thanks, Willie. Now, I've got a question here. Ori Kohav, and he's got 2 questions here. First of all, it says, what do you think? Actually, I think this is more of from a past season. Obviously, this is from a Cagayan perspective, really. What do you think about the idea of bringing back the idol using Guatemala? The one that's played before the votes are casted.
So you're kind of gambling on whether or not you are the recipient of the votes. That's obviously it robs the idol of a lot of its power, which is obviously good and bad. On the one hand, the idol becomes a lot less. Well, no, sorry, I'm not right. If you play it before the votes are cast, people now know they can't vote for you and they have to switch the vote. I like it better the way it is now.
I think
there's more of the surprise effect now.
I'm not sure if Ori means like sort of how it was when it first started, like, how Yule and Terry had the power, and then we had the Tyler Perry one, how in terms of... Right. Maybe he means, what do you think of that type of idol where you can actually play it after the votes are read?
After the votes are read. So,
let's go with that one.
No, I hate that idol. I think the complete point of the idol is it should be help if you use it correctly. It shouldn't be this get-out-of-jail-free card once you've been voted out. I think that sucks. I think they found, through a lot of tinkering, the correct way to use the idol, which is, hey, these votes are in the urn. Do you think you've been voted out? Play the idol. If not, you might be walking home with an idol. I think that's the most dramatic, effective use of the idol.
And it actually amazes me when you think about it that they actually initially thought that it was a good idea that you could play it after the votes are read. Like, how much power did Terry and Yule have when they both had those idols?
Exactly.
So.
Well, and then look how far Terry and Yule both got. That makes and Tony, wasn't that Tony's special idol last season?
Yeah, the Tyler Perry idol.
Or 2 seasons ago. No. It's silly. Then it's totally too much power at that point.
Now, I love his last question here. Who is giving Survivor superfans a worse name, Max, Shirin, or Dan?
Oh, God. A worse name? I mean, not Max. Max didn't give anyone a bad name. I guess the whole, war thing, but, people get more. That's not fair. Max I'm totally fine with. Bad name, Shireen, I don't think is good. Shireen's bad name is just that she's so eager, and that's not like she just loves it so much. Dan is giving the bad name in the sense that he's just such a jerk, but I guess that's independent of his superfan status. I mean, I guess the answer to this question is always Dan is the worst, so Dan.
There you go. All right. Thanks everyone who sent listener questions in, and as I said, feel free to get them into it each week. Now, as you know, Brian, we wrap up our recaps of the set of 5 questions. You've done 3 recaps in the past, and just gelling over them quickly. Back in the Philippines, you said that Malcolm would win and Denise was your dark horse. So, there you go. In Caramoan, your tip to win was Cochrane and your dark horse was Malcolm. And in Blood vs. Water, your tip to win was Tyson and your dark horse was Vetus. You've got a very good track record on this.
Okay. Well, it also helps that certainly for 2 of those seasons, it was like, I mean, Cochrane was basically going to win that season before they stepped on the beach. And Tyson was broadcast from day 1, too. Yeah. So last season was way less predictable. I would have been wrong last season. And Cagayan, I think I would have called Tony, because I was on the Tony train pretty early. This season, I think the pick to win is Mike. Mm-hmm. But Mike really could... I think the dark horse is... Tyler Cowan. Dark horse Tyler.
Okay. Didn't talk too much about Carolyn. Just quickly, thoughts on Carolyn this season?
I think she would make a great winner, maybe. Like, that's the kind of thing. Yep. Like, I think she's playing a pretty solid game, but we haven't heard a ton from her. But I think she's probably playing a very smart game.
She broke the record for most confessionals in a first episode ever. She had 13 confessionals in that premiere episode, so...
For real?
A random stat for you. All right. Okay. Who's next to go? Brian, who's voted out next week? Or, no, medevac, whatever.
I don't know. I think it might be Jen. I think we might see Jen just be like, peace out, I'm going to the jury to hang out with Haley.
Okay. Maybe they won't let her go to the jury because they've got that whole thing in place, don't they, since Nicaragua, where they can sort of decide whether or not they go to the jury or not if they quit.
Oh, please. They're not letting Jen go anywhere.
Okay, go to the jury. That's fine. Now, here's a question that obviously is specific to this season. If you were on white collar versus blue collar versus no collar, Brian, which tribe would you be on?
Oh, I'm white collar so far down that path. Yeah.
Do you like that twist? I didn't ask you that. Do you like the white blue no twist?
Yeah. I think ultimately what you're doing is you're grouping together different mentalities is what you're really doing. And it's interesting. Yeah, I think the white tribe would always be the least cohesive because I think a white collar tribe will not have the same kind of solidarity that like blue collar, because white collar will never feel like the underdog. So there's less of a cohesiveness there than there would be for a blue collar, which I think, like I said, in a tweet I did a while back, like they just have this so overbearing sense of pride. I said their work ethic must come from having to drag around the sense of self-righteous pride all day, every day. So the blue collar team, I think, was always destined to be the most cohesive. And then the no collar, kind of these like free spirits, whatever. And then white collar's like, we're all the leaders, right? And then it's just going to fall apart, I think. But I would be for sure white collar.
I'm so glad you're on Twitter. Can I just point out, because I think wasn't there a while there that you didn't really like Twitter? I think I remember you saying.
Yeah, I was brought into Twitter dragging and screaming. Eliza basically signed me up for Twitter and was like, "You're now on Twitter." I mean, pretty much. So
and you're hooked now, aren't you? Be honest. Come on.
I like tweeting, but I basically only tweet about Survivor. I feel bad for like my friends who follow me. I'm like, sorry, this is just all going to be about Survivor, pretty much. Yeah.
One thing I will say that's funny, going back to kind of this, fan vote season that's coming up, is how so many of these people who are on the list who are never on Twitter are just signing up to Twitter and right now.
Look at that! Kimmy Kappenberg's on Twitter. Who'd have thought?
Kimmy Kappenberg followed you. Oh, really?
Terry Dietz. Hey there. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We love Kimmy and we love Terry. We love all of them. Anyway, now, I like this question. The final question. Player you're most similar to, of course, out of anyone from this season. Now, just on your form guide here, Philippines, you said you were a combination between Katie, Pete, and Dawson. Caramoan, you were similar to Laura. I was looking there going, hang on a minute, that wasn't Blood vs. Water, but then I remember Laura Alexander, of course. Sorry, I was thinking Laura Bonham for a second there. And, on Blood vs. Water, God. You said you were most similar to Tyson. So, this season, who are you most similar to?
I need to remember them all. That's the thing. I feel like they're all really decent people. I just don't really remember them. Certainly nobody on Blue Collar for sure. White. I mean, probably Max. I guess is the obvious answer to this question. Max. We're both White Collar Survivor super fans, and maybe Shireen. I'm a lot like Shireen with the enthusiasm. I think.
I can see it. Can you grow a beard like Max?
No, nor would I want one.
I think I just want somebody to Photoshop Max's beard on your face now.
Oh God, I look like a troll beast. No.
You know someone's going to do it now, Brian.
Well, blessings of the internet.
Yes, it's always a pleasure having you on this show, mate. Thank you very much. Now, quickly, where can people follow you on Twitter? I feel like you need to tag yourself.
Oh, of course, yes. I'm Brian Corridan. BRICORRIDAN. Brian
Corridan. We, of course, will tag you when we put this up for people to see anyway. But always a pleasure, mate. Enjoy the rest of this season. Say hello to everybody in the Wine and Cheese crew. But please pass on a lovely little note to Sophie that we still want her on the show.
I'm sure, absolutely, of course.
I honestly don't think she wants to come on the show, but please beg and
so fun. I'll tell her how fun it is. I'll put in a good word for you.
Yes, indeed. But we appreciate it as always, mate. And thank you very much.
Have a good one. Thanks, man.
And there we go. Brian Corridan from Guatemala. Always a lot of fun to get on the show. Always very insightful, of course. And we do appreciate his time on the program today. Now, just a few housekeeping matters to close it all out. Now, you heard us talk a lot about this alleged Season 31, Season 32. And we've touched on it on our Oztopsy this week. We're hoping to get up an article. James, our British Ozlet, who we all love, he's penning a feature about this season and the potentials that it has. And we're kind of holding off on doing an episode as such until they officially announce it, and then there's a vote, because this is how it seems like it's going to be happening. So once that happens, we will do a big episode, sort of talking up each of the 40, who we think should come back, what our ideal cast would be, etc., etc. And obviously we're going to be getting behind some people to really get them on back on the show. And look, when we do this, and we will obviously say this when it comes to putting this episode out, it won't be done to campaign against any of the people. It's not like we're full on doing that. It's obviously more so that there are definitely some people that we are very much wanting to see back on, particularly one in particular that I will be campaigning, as you heard there, a certain Kelly Wigglesworth, if those rumours are true. But stay tuned for that. Now, of course, our Oztopsy is already up. We will be back next week again with more recaps and Oztopsies. I'll tell you about that recap in just a moment. And our Amazing Race Oz, hosted by Noah Groves, back. Again, apologies for the delay. That will be up hopefully very, very soon as well. And I also just want to pass on my sincere thanks again to Colin Hilding, who filled in for me last week with the 20s recap, as well as the Gillian Larson Reality Rally interview. Now, the 20s recap last week was brilliant. Go and listen to it. It was a lot of fun. And we do hopefully have lined up coming up in terms of interviews. A lot of people are always asking, what's happened to your interviews? That's what you were known for. Hopefully we're getting our Nadia Anderson interview sorted out shortly, as well as even our Val Collins interview, because Val and Jeremy are doing our power rankings, and we obviously haven't had a full interview with Val. And speaking of power rankings, they will be available early next week as well. Our recap next week, as of right now, it is scheduled to be 3-time player from the Cook Islands, Micronesia and Philippines, and always a favourite of any Survivor fan, the one and only Jonathan Penner. But again, things may change. Schedulings often change. Stay tuned. We will update you and announce that during the week. We still have some very good big name people lined up. We still have another winner lined up as well to come back on the show to chat about this season. and some very exciting people still in the pipeline, so stay tuned for that. Oztopsy back live next week, and as I keep teasing every single week, Oscars around the corner. We're going to be announcing the categories and everything along those lines shortly. Voting does commence the day after the finale. Well, pretty much the day of the finale, I should say, of Survivor, and just stay tuned for that. And we will keep you posted on more on that. Always appreciate your feedback. survivoros@hotmail.com.au. If you do wish to email us anything, always open to hear your thoughts on the show, or if you've got any questions or comments or anything along those lines. Of course, Facebook, search for Survivor Oz. We are always on there, as well as Twitter. Follow us at Survivor Oz. And we do read every message that we do get, and we try to respond to all of the ones that we can as well. And subscribe to us on iTunes. Easiest way to get these episodes direct to your computer, your iPod, your iPhone, any portable device. We're also out there on Stitcher, on TuneIn Radio, and wherever good podcasts are downloaded from. If you are not on iTunes and wish to seek us out, you can, of course, directly download these episodes via SurvivorOz.com. You don't even have to subscribe. You can just download the individual ones. All of our episodes, our entire archive of interviews, episode recaps, and everything else in between is in there. And you can search for your favourites in the search bar. It's that simple. We make it convenient for you here on Survivor Oz. Enjoy your weekend, folks. Enjoy Reality Rally if you're heading out to Temecula, California. Say good day to Ryan. He's doing interviews for us out there. And always a good cause, and donate to Michelle's place too. Just a quick little plug in the end there. Right, I'm going. My name is Ben. The tribe has spoken. We will speak to you next week on The Trains.